Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you heard the music. It's like 9 o'clock, so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here on KABF 88.3 FM, Voice of the People, community radio, Voice of the People. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney Orr. And as always, my beautiful co-host, Denise, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell is in the studio. How you doing this morning, Denise?
I'm well, thanks for asking. I see you, hotel.
So I hope everybody's having a great week so far. I hope you're staying warm. I hope you are just enjoying life and what life is bringing you. Just want to thank you for taking the time out this morning to tune in to the workplace. We are very appreciative here at KABF 88.3 again for the way you show up for the different programming that we have on KABF 88.3. Just want to remind everyone that KABF is a 501c3 nonprofit community radio station, one of only 12 in this country that have 100,000 watts. Can't go no farther than that. Yeah, we just want to thank all who have donated, who have given pledges, who have volunteered here at KABF for 83.3 FM. And just want to remind you that you don't have to wait till a player's drive. You can give a donation or you give a pledge at any time you want to. You can go to www.kabf.org and you can give online. You can click the donate button. And while you're there, you can also become a monthly sustaining member of KBF. Our monthly membership has increased a lot. It has increased a lot over this year, and that's attributed to you, the listening audience, and your support for KBF. You can call 501-371-61, 501-372-6119. I get these threes mixed up sometimes. That's the phone system in the building, starting with 37. But 372-6119, and you can talk to our program director, Charles Ray. You get a pledge of donation that way. Or you can call one of your favorite shows at 501-433-0088 and give you a pledge of donation that way also. You can also send a check of money order to 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, 72204. And you can donate or give a pledge. You can also come by the station at that same address, 2101 South Main Street, and you can give you a pledge or donation in person. And also, once again, if you are looking for that one CD to complete your collection of a certain artist, or if you just want to get some CDs, you can stop by the station and you can have all the free CDs you want. If you want to take one, fine. If you want to take three, fine. If you want to take a box, if you want to take a couple of boxes, or if you just want to come and take the time to peruse the vast collection of CDs that we have here at the station, feel free to do so. We have an abundance of CDs, and we don't mind just giving to you, the listening audience. And so before I get into the announcements, I want to see if Denise, did you have any announcements?
I don't have any announcements.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Uh, this is from Arvest Bank. Attention, Arvest customers. Protect your debit card like never before with Arvest fraud alerts. Here's how it works. If suspicious activity is detected, Arvest sends you a text alert. Reply yes to confirm the transaction or no if it's fraudulent. It's fast, easy, and keeps your card safe. Learn more about this powerful protection at arvest.com/fraud dash alerts. That's arvest.com/fraud dash alerts. Arvest fraud alerts, keeping you one step ahead of fraud. And you have to be careful during this time of the year. Believe me, they out there. The scammers, the fraud people, they're out there. And one thing that I didn't realize, and I saw this on a news report, people now you can actually use your phone and you can actually walk past people, and if you get close enough to them, you can scan, you can get information off a credit card that's in your pocket or in your person. And they were talking about these new wallets that have this protection case that stops that from happening. So there's a lot of things out there that we have to be careful about. But here's one way to keep your credit card and your debit card safe if you are with artists. And I think all banks or credit card companies do this. I know mine do. That will send you an alert if they think that something is suspicious. The Arkansas State Claims Commission will hold hearings via Zoom on December 13th, 2024, beginning at 9 a.m. The Arkansas State Claims Commission will also hold a special hearing via Zoom on December 6th, 2024 at 9 a.m. If there are any questions, please contact the Commission office at 501-682-1619. Medicaid Town Hall, let your voice be heard. This is co-hosted by Arkansas Community Organizations and Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. Please join us for a public forum on why Medicaid is important for Arkansans and for Arkansas's families. Your story matters, and we want to hear it. When this takes place tonight, this evening, Thursday, December 12th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. at the Arkansas Education Association building at 1500 West 4th Street, Suite 200. That's in Little Rock, 72201. Once again, that's tonight from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Arkansas Education Association building, 1500 West 4th Street, Suite 200, Little Rock, Arkansas, 72201. And once again, this is sponsored by Arkansas Community Organizations and Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. So today I want to talk about something it's been in the news, and I think it's something important that we need to discuss or just have conversations around. And a lot of it is going to, a lot of it also intertwines with what's going to happen next month in January. So I know when I said that, a lot of people say, "Oh, the inauguration of President Trump, President-elect Trump." But more importantly, the Arkansas General Assembly will convene in January. I think it's the second week of January that they will come together, and our governor, Sarah Sanders, has proposed a $6.5 billion budget for the state. And for those of you who may not know, Arkansas, by its constitution, states that it has to have a balanced budget. Before the General Assembly adjourns, they have to come up with a balanced budget. So we already know that there's been some tax cuts from the last session, and I don't know if there's going to be any more tax cuts, but there's going to be some cuts to services. And one of the things that is going to be increased is the voucher system for the LEARNS Act. So more money is going to be poured in to the voucher system. And more money is going to be cut from Medicaid, Medicare, and other services. And I was reading this article this morning, and one of the things that was talking about when it comes to Arkansas is that this idea that undocumented workers, undocumented people are using services here, are using services whether it's Arkansas, whether it's in the country, and you know, and the basis of what this conversation is going to be about is about when you start looking at undocumented people in this country, but more importantly, undocumented workers. And one of the premises of this issue is that they're using these services that aren't entitled to. And when you start to look at when you start talking about undocumented workers, and a lot of times they give you this bait and switch, what I call the bait and switch. They give you something that you grab hold of, but then they switch it. So this idea, when the LEARNS Act came out, it was this idea that, we're going to raise teacher salaries. So that's the bait. The switch is that, okay, we're going to raise teacher salaries, but we're not going to actually give you, after 2 years, the money that we're giving you initially to raise these salaries, we're going to take away from you. And the same thing when you start talking about undocumented workers. We want businesses, don't get it twisted, businesses love undocumented workers. Agricultures, farms, they love undocumented workers because they don't have to pay a lot of the things. They don't have to pay payroll tax for these workers. They don't have to do quarterly taxes for these workers. They don't have to pay insurance for these workers. So this idea that it's going to be some mass deportations, and that idea that it's going to help the economy, it's going to help the people, but in reality, it's going to, to me, that's the bait, because the switch is who's going to fill those jobs? Who's going to fill in those gaps? And when you start talking about, as the General Assembly meets, and they're starting to talk about cutting these services. So if they cut these services and they start this idea of deporting undocumented workers, if you can't get the services, then their idea is that it's going to force you to go to work. It's going to force you to go to work. And because the budget is going to be shrinking for these services, it's going to put people in a position where these services that I need, I may not be able to get. And if I can't get them, what am I going to do? So it's crazy as how this is playing out. In Arkansas, is falling right into that gap. And the people of Arkansas are falling into that gap. Well, when I say the people, some people in the state of Arkansas are falling into that gap, this idea. So one of the questions, I know I said a lot, but one of the things, I want to ask you, the listening audience, how do you feel about so-called undocumented workers? And if undocumented workers aren't here, who do you think is going to fill those positions or those jobs, especially in light of services being cut? And something else I want to say, if you're undocumented, And President-elect Trump made a big issue about undocumented workers um, using uh, using these services. There is no evidence, really, through all the research. There's very little evidence that undocumented, whether it's workers or people, use these services. Even the ones that is they came over here as undocumented and they had children here, the children aren't able or they are entitled to these services, whether it's here in Arkansas, whether it's Our Kids First, whether it's food stamps, they are entitled, but the parents aren't. But a lot of undocumented people don't even use that service for the simple fact that they are afraid. Most of them are afraid that they will get caught up in this in this deportation, and so they leave it alone. And so, with what's coming up with President Trump, President-elect Trump being inaugurated, and with the General Assembly being coming into play, and how they're going to start looking at the budget. One, how do you feel about these undocumented workers, and who do you think is going to fill in those positions? Two is, what do you think about the cuts to these services that the budget is going to require? It's nowhere around it. The budget, to make this budget balanced, it's going to require these cuts to services. And the other thing is, what is it that we can do about it? What do you think we can do to stop how all this is rolling downhill?
So we've got a couple of comments to your question, a couple of responses. Lo, let me start right here. Lo says there should be a path to citizenship. But let's just be clear. There should be a path to citizenship. But these other two comments, that's what he says. But these other two comments, I feel like go hand in hand. So Lo also says it's going to force an expected increase in the underground economy, which is crime. So when you decide to cut these services, it's going to force an expected increase in the underground economy, which is crime. And then Deidre says, I feel okay about undocumented workers. There will be prisoners doing their jobs. Slavery makes America great again. Let me say that again. Let me read that again. I feel okay about undocumented workers. There will be prisoners doing their jobs. Slavery makes America great again.
And so, to comment on both, comment on Lo and Deidre's comments, you're right. Because why do you think they went and purchased this 826-acre piece of property in Franklin County? They didn't let the residents of Franklin County know about the state purchases this land to build this 3,000 bed prison. They didn't let them know. They didn't have no town hall. They didn't let nobody know until they said, we're going to build this prison here. And it's been a big issue about it. But if you have that underground economy, which in a way I believe they want you to have it. They want to create this because it opens the door for more people to go to prison. And if you don't have these undocumented workers and people refuse, to take on some of this job, yes, it goes back to that the same thing, that you're going to have more people going to prison. And I agree with you, Deidre, that's what makes America great. The thing of human trafficking, whether it's slavery, whether it's other things, it's human trafficking, and slavery. I think they go together. I think they kind of intertwine. Might be different in some areas, but I think it's an intertwinement, because it's the buying and selling of human bodies. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to send you to prison, And now the prison system is going to buy you, whether they convict you of a crime, whether, whatever. We're going to get you over here and we're going to use you because we're going to find a way. If we deport, we're going to find a way to make sure the crops are picked. We're going to find a way to make sure that homes are built. We're going to find a way to make sure infrastructure is being taken care of. And that way is going to be through the prison system.
So I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning. I want to make sure, first of all, that I heard you correctly. When you said that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who the people voted in for governor, whoever voted for the majority who made her win, said that she wants to focus in on the deportation of undocumented workers, and she wants to do that because it will allow her to reduce the budget as it relates to services that these people are tapping into, and they should not be able to tap into these services because they should not have access to these services because they are undocumented workers. Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
So I just find that statement to be interesting because I'm trying to figure out when you talk about undocumented workers, that means that these are people who are working, and if they are working, that means that they are stimulating our economy. So if they shouldn't have access to the services, then why should Sarah Huckabee Sanders and all of the people that support her have access to the undocumented workers? Why should they have access to their working services? If as workers, they should not have access to social services, why do businesses have access to their services in employment? And how is it that they are undocumented when we know they work for you? So I just feel like there's some shenanigans going on when you say they're undocumented, but yet I can come to your business and see them at work. So what are we really saying?
Well, what we're really saying, it goes back to the bait and switch. If you tell people this, if you tell people this lie, which it is a lie, and they believe this lie, then they're going to start voting, or they're going to start to say, oh, we need to stop this, we need to stop this. But they don't stop to think that, you know what, who's actually benefited? It's not me that's benefited, in a way, it's not me. It's that businessman who isn't paying taxes, who, if they did pay taxes, will now help me have the services or help my family have the service they need. It's this business person who's not paying taxes that is not flowing into my community or anything else. So on one end, going back to what Deidre said about slavery, and human trafficking, the people at the top make the money. The people at the bottom get used. And so it's this narrative that keeps playing out, and that's why, for those of you going back to this issue of undocumented people in the services, so a federal judge that was appointed by Donald Trump, where the Department of Health and Human Services stated that even if you were a dreamer, that you could actually apply for health care through the Affordable Care Act. You could apply. President Biden made that. He passed that. He passed that bill. He did that executive order stating that they could. Well, a federal judge has put an injunction against that, saying that, and his premise was that yes, they are here, and that they can't, they can use, or they can be allowed, or they should be allowed to use the Affordable Care Act, the marketplace. But I believe that if I allow this, it's going to open the door for people to misuse it and be a burden on the American taxpayers. And it's things like that make you go like, what? Now, nobody has really tried. I think the Biden administration and President Obama tried to go through Congress to get a solution, a resolution to the Dreamers. Those who came over here, who parents may have been, who came over here as children, as undocumented, but have lived here in this country. They have gone to school. Some have gone, a lot have been in college. They are professionals. They are working, but they're not citizens. And when you said that it should be a pathway to citizenship, it's talked about, but has never been formally taken care of. And now there is I think several southern states have actually filed a suit against the 14th Amendment, which eventually is going to end up at the Supreme Court. Now, the 14th Amendment, part of it is about citizenship, that if anybody is born here on American soil, they become an American citizen. Well, they want to challenge that. And that challenge is, if you were undocumented when you came here, if you didn't come in here through what they call the legal process of getting a visa, a green card, or asylum, if you didn't go through that and you had children on this soil, then those children should be considered illegal also.
And this is why we have to continue to broaden the conversation about racism. This is why we have to continue to broaden the conversation about racism, because many of us have the conversation in the context of Black folks and white folks, and then and we go at it from that perspective, and we leave out so many other populations of people who are human among us in this moment. And so when you talk about undocumented people and this challenge to the 14th Amendment that says, because you were not born here, then it's the same. You can connect the dots to those of us who were brought over here, who were kidnapped and captured and brought over here. And we, and the descendants of those people, me as a descendant of those people, we still are not treated as citizens in this country. And so when we look at Black folks, we're like, oh, look at their situation. Oh, look at what happened to them. Let's think about slavery as it relates to Black folks. But this is the same concept. It is the same model. It is the same structure. It is the same system that's now being applied to undocumented workers. And it's based and rooted in racism. So the question becomes, what requires you to be a citizen? Like, what criteria must you meet to become a citizen? And for me, it sounds like the same criteria that you use to become a member of the Ku Klux Klan, right? You got to be white. You got to own property. You got to, and I don't want to say, and let's, for the sake of argument, you have to be male and you have to be Christian. Okay, so now you can become a citizen. And so if you have this requirement that you got to be white, you got to be a business person, you got to own property, you have to be Christian, and you said then everybody else is outside of that, then if you apply that to people who are Latino or people who are not of European descent, then that leaves a lot of folks out. And that's exactly what the system is designed to do.
Right, you are totally right. Let me get this call. Caller, you on there. Caller? All right, caller. Sorry I missed you. Call back. I got you. And another thing that, caller, you on there.
Yes, speaking of dog, I see y'all got a new system that answers the phone, and you have to leave a message and all of that, I guess. But what I wanted to talk about is, we know that both the hack and the whack, the Republicans and the Democrats, they always create a problem and then look for us to look to them to solve that problem. I hope that if they do start getting all the undocumented out, that money will turn over in the community again. That was one of my pet peeves, that no money was turning over in the community. Most of the time, that if they had, whether it was sidewalks or whatever going well, the black people, and I hate to even use that, but none of us was working. I had started about 5 years, maybe 8 years ago almost, looking field until they start putting up barriers to not even let you come close to where the work was going on in most of the cases. But like I say, we have to know that this is just one of the fixed strategies that they use for what we call maximum sophisticated confusion. Now, the racial, well, I wish I could touch on all the subjects that you were bouncing the ball around about, but that particular one, like I say, let's just keep hope alive that monies will again start circulating in our community. Again, peace and love, dog, and I'll listen to the rest.
So here's a response to Solar Beam, and it's from Lowe. It said, legislative bodies are not designed to solve problems. The art of politics and its focus is compromise. The legislative bodies are not designed to solve problems. The art of politics and its focus is compromise. I just want us to be clear about what's really happening. When you start talking about deportations, like what's really happening. When you start talking about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, what's really happening? What's really happening is a numbers game that white people are trying to play. Because again, the census is what really has instigated this urgency. It was already happening, this notion of trying to make sure that we preserve ourselves, we preserve the system of whiteness. But this census just ignited this sense of urgency that says we got to do everything now. So we overturn Roe versus Wade because we're trying to make sure that we have that there's nothing keeping more white bodies coming into this country. And then now you want to deport all of these Hispanic people. But think about it. In the between time, they changed our forms. So when you fill out a form now, they ask you about your race, and then they're going to ask you about your ethnicity. They're going to ask you if you are Hispanic or non-Hispanic. We haven't always done that. That's something that came up recently because they're trying to determine who can we call white and who can we not call white, because we need to count these folks because we are afraid that we are losing our numbers, because that's what the census has shown. So this is not about solving problems. This is not about compromising. This is not about creating an economy. This is not about increasing quality of life. This is about making sure we have white people, whiteness, the system of white in humanity, maintaining its numbers so it can maintain power and control.
Yeah, and think about it like this. Look at it like this. So, going back to the bait and switch, in Arkansas, I'm just going to use Arkansas for example, but I know these numbers are the same across the country. There are more white people on these services than black people.
Yeah.
You know, there are more white people in public education than black people. But they put the face of black and brown bodies to this issue. So it makes white people feel like, oh, they're taking advantage. They're taking advantage. But in reality, they're the ones who are benefiting from these services more than anybody else. So when you look, going back to this LEARNS Act, when they asked, one of the reasons why I forget the number, didn't pass, and it was the one that wanted the LEARNS Act to be that whoever received that money to be more transparent, that they would have to follow the same rules and regulations as public schools. And they fought against it because they don't want you to see that the people who are actually getting the vouchers to send their children to private schools, parochial schools, or religious schools, it's rich people who already were sending their kids to these private schools. It's rich people and their children that are going to benefit. And the people going to suffer are going to be those where that money is being drawn from public education.
But why do we need them to be more transparent? Like, why do I need you to put it down in writing? We already know. I don't need a report to tell me that people who are deserving of the vouchers are not receiving it. I don't need a report to tell me that there are disparities in healthcare based on race and gender and sex and class. I don't need a report to tell me that education is not teaching and educating our children in a way that's going to help them be successful as citizens as they move forward in life. I don't need no report.
True.
Why are we waiting on a report? We should act on what we already know, that we see, that we feel, that we experience. That's all I need.
So, yes, I agree with you. But there's a whole segment of people who are caught up, like I said, in the bait and switch. I give you this bait and you bite it and you hang on to it and you never see the switch. And even though somebody will tell you this is what's happening,
you might not see the switch, but you're going to feel it. And see, that's the problem with white people. You're banking on the color of your skin to be the barrier for you so that you won't experience what the fallout of what's about to happen in these next 4 years, but you're not going to be able to escape it. Your color at this point with the administration that's coming in, you are not going to be able to escape the experiences that you are about to have because you are a citizen, not because you are white, but because you are a citizen and they trying to make America great again. It's going to affect you, and it's going to affect you in a way that you cannot deny.
You're right. You're right. And that's when it's going to people going to wake up and say, oh. This wasn't this wasn't supposed to happen to me, because the moment, let's go back to this deportation, the moment they do that, and now, whether it's a job out in picking tomatoes, whether it's a job in construction, whether it's a job in doing roofing, whatever, they're gonna look at you. You gonna go for some services, or you gonna go and they're gonna tell you no. You're not going to get these services because we got a job for you. And you can say, no, I ain't going to do that. Then, hey, I don't know what you're going to do, because we're not going to give you anything when we know there's a job out there for you. And what's going to happen, it's going to be a lot, not just poor white, it's going to be a lot of white people in so-called middle class who are going to start looking, because they're going to start downsizing. AI and robotics going to take away some things that normally they do. It's going to be a lot of people going to be working remotely, and so those people that have to go out and do the physical labor, the physical work, they're going to tell you, we're not going to give you anything, and you're going to look and you're going to think that, hey, I'm white. I don't have to go out there and pick strawberries. I don't have to go out there and pick lettuce. And they're going to look at you and say, yes, you will. If you want to survive, you're going to have to. And that's going to be the thing. That's going to be the issue. And when you start to see, going back to public education, when you start to see these small white school districts struggling to try to pay teachers and educate, they're going to be like, well, the Learns Act isn't supposed to hurt us. And that's the bait and switch. And so we have to, people, period, are going to have to wake up and start to see, hey, yeah, or be prepared with what's coming next.
But this bait and switch, as I'm listening to you talk about it, and you may not mean it like this, but the way I'm feeling it in this moment is like, oh my goodness, there's a bait and switch happening now. And I'm like, this bait and switch that you're talking about has been the way
this
world
has
been working all. Yes, so okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been there from the beginning. It's been there from the beginning. But you said something a second ago that now, I've been holding on to this bait, but now I can see the switch. My color has not allowed me to see the switch. My color has told me that I was on top regardless. My color has told me that it's, at the end of the day, I may not have anything, but I got more than that black person. Now the switch is going to be, hold up, you mean I'm just as poor as they are? You mean I don't have nothing just like they are? You mean you're going to treat me the same way you treat them? And that's going to be,
Let me get this comment in from Kwame. Kwame says the rural schools are already laying off teachers and closing. The rural schools are already laying off teachers and closing. And that was another thing that I was going to say is that, you know, a lot of people I hear in circles that I'm matriculating through are saying things like, we got to go to another country. Like we got to find somewhere else to live. And I have not yet felt that in my own body, that I need to move to another country in order for me to live the kind of life that I want to live. I haven't felt that. And part of that conversation for me is that I really don't see how life is really going to change in terms of those of us who are already struggling. Like if you're already struggling, you're going to keep struggling under this new administration. Like when we talk about people as a Black person, when I talk about being Black and woman in America, when you say, oh, well, you're going to be discriminated against. Well, I'm already being discriminated against. If you're going to be dehumanized. Well, I'm already being dehumanized. You're going to be uneducated or miseducated. Well, I'm already being miseducated. So I'm not really sure how it's like what we think that like we're not gonna be able to withstand the storm that's coming because it's a new storm. It's the same storm, just with a different face on it. So I don't really feel the need like, oh my God, I can't live here anymore. Because we've been living it and we've been existing through it and we've been pushing forward. Here's Lo. Are you gonna answer the phone or are you gonna let me? Okay.
Let me see. Call you on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't like this new storm that's coming any better than you all do, because they're coming after people's health care. Last night on Channel 11, they're trying to mess with people that are SNAP recipients buying junk food. We already whipped through that years back in the Arkansas legislature. And now Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going around that. She's writing a letter to the new agricultural secretary and Robert Kennedy Jr. It's going to come into office next, So she's bypassing the state system and going right for the federal with that.
Yeah. Because
I relate a whole lot with what Denise says. I'd like to know somewhere too that where else is there? We're going to have to fight for what we have here, what we have left,
Yeah.
And I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders is taking a page from her mentor, right? Because that's what President-elect Trump is saying. I don't need any agencies to oversee anything. I ought to be able to decide what I'm going to do and get the people that are going to support me around me to push it through and make it happen. And so for the caller to say Sarah Huckabee Sanders is trying to, go around, work around the systems that are already in place that are supposed to protect us from these kinds of things. Like she's following right into the footsteps that she wants to be in. Like she wants to be in the position that she's in so that she can make the very same moves that President-elect Donald Trump is making, because if it were not for him, she wouldn't even be in office, right? So she's been on this trip and we should not expect anything less from her.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. The day she got inaugurated, the day she was inaugurated as governor, she sat down. I mean, it wasn't even 5 minutes. The ink wasn't even dry on her being written in as governor, where she came out with all these executive orders that, the LEARNS Act was an executive order that and got it pushed through because of the people that's around her. She said that,
she changed the language.
She changed the language. She said the African American studies could not be taught anywhere. Critical race theory could not be taught. You're like, what the?
Because it was already in motion. Like these things are already in motion. We're just looking for the person who's going to be the face of it, but it's already in motion. Let's get this comment in from Lo. Historically, white folks do not care about cutting their own throat as long as they can maintain that illusion of superiority. Historically, white folks do not care about cutting their own throat as long as they can maintain that illusion of superiority. And that, I think, is what I would push more than, I don't want to say more than, but focus on that more than bait and switch. Like focus on the fact that whoever you are, that whiteness and the system of white inhumanity will stop at nothing and no one to maintain the position that it believes it has as being superior, as being supreme, as being the best okay, or being great. Like, it will stop at nothing, and it will run you over no matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, what your class is, what your heritage is. It does not matter. And so white people need to recognize that you will be caught up in that in your own system of whiteness.
Yeah, and I think it goes right back to what Lo said. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's something that is not real, but if I can make you believe it.
Right. So race itself is an illusion, right? So the fact that you think I'm black, that's something you created. The fact that you think these people are Latino, Hispanic, or brown, I don't want to use that word, they brown, that's something you created. The fact that you call these people yellow who are that's something you created. This is not real. These are constructs. These are systems that we have designed in order to create, to keep up the illusion. And so so that's what we need to stop doing, is looking at each other like, oh, look at you black. No, look at me, I'm human. Look at you human.
You know what? And this is just me. This is just my opinion. My opinion ain't got nothing to do with KBF, ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. It's just my opinion, and it's just the way my mind thinks. On November 5th, that night, the night of the election, I believe Donald Trump did the same thing he did when he got elected in 2016. He sat around with a drink in his hand around his people, and he said, I can't believe these voted me in office. And I know he did it again, November 5th. I can't believe they did it again. I can't remember the person who quoted this. He said, but a sucker is born every minute. There are a lot of suckers in this country, because when you think about it, when you really, really, really think about it,
but Donald Trump is dependent on you being a sucker, right? Because he said, he said, you can roll the tape. And he said, P.T. Barnum said that. Lowe said P.T. Barnum said that a sucker is born every day. So Donald Trump rolled the tape. He said, if I were going to run for president, I would run as a Republican. He wasn't even a Republican. So I need Republican suckers to follow me into this whole new way of being as a politician that I wasn't even thinking about. I'm trying to be a celebrity. I'm trying to be a fake businessman. I'm trying to live my life and have the high on the high road. I ain't thinking about all this, but if I were going to, I would be a Republican. He also said, I even know that I got so many suckers around me that I could kill somebody in the middle of the street and wouldn't anything happen to me. He hasn't killed anybody yet that we are aware of, but he has assaulted people and been convicted of it and is now a felon, and you still, suckers, voted for him. He has become dependent on suckers. And so when you look at what's going on and what's about to happen, I don't want you to complain to me. No. Don't call me complaining to me, because he was depending on you to do exactly what you did.
One of the images that stays in my mind, going back during his first term, Donald Trump's first term, and COVID hit, and they had to shut things down, and they were in Nashville. They were ABC News, I think. It was Fox News. They were doing a report from the Tennessee Titans football stadium in Nashville, because they were giving away free food. They were giving away food for people. The line, if you ever travel, and you go into the to be screened by TSA, they have a little maze. You got to
feel like cattle.
You got to walk through. That's how that parking lot looked. It was like a maze, and everybody, of course, with Fox News, they were interviewing white people, and it was white women. And it didn't amaze me. It was funny to me that they were driving up in, luxury cars. They were driving up, and and they were interviewing, and they were like, these white mothers and grandmothers. They were like, we never experienced. I don't know if we're gonna make it. And the Fox News reporter was like, he's milking it for everything. He said, oh, it's bad. And what make it so funny was that not once did they say, not once did they ask, do you blame Donald Trump? Could the president have done something earlier? And no. And it was like, you mean to tell me that this is happening to you, but you too blind to see that the reason it's happening is this person that you are giving blind loyalty to. And I think that's one of the things that amaze me, that trips me out. And it goes back to what Lo said. It goes back to what you were talking about. If you can create this illusion, and make it so real, because even though we know David Copperfield did not make an elephant disappear on stage, but we believe it. We will believe it to the point that it becomes true. And that's the thing that Donald Trump has done a great job of.
Yeah, but I don't want to give Donald Trump all of the credit for that. Again, this system of white inhumanity was in full force before Donald Trump became president the first time.
Yeah. Let me take this last call. Call, you got 1 minute.
Okay, in 1 minute, I can talk about the different racist strategies. And there are 6 classifications of it. Racial classification confusion, racial population dislocation confusion. That's when we see them going in Chicago with these sanctuary cities and all that. Racial population tailoring confusion, racial showcasing confusion, racial sexual confusion, and racial white sacrifice confusion. So there are 6 major classifications of their, what we call, maximum sophisticated confusion. So their strategy is keep us confused. But I'm pretty sure a lot of us got them figured out. Again, peace and love to all.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say, and because this where that confusion plays in also, when they talk about these sanctuary cities, so much was made about what was going on in Springfield, Ohio, what's going on in these cities. What was happening is people who did not have a stake or did not have any business being a part of this. Well, I think Ron DeSantis in Florida, Governor Huckabee here, Governor Sanders here in Arkansas, other governors from Ohio, Tennessee, Mississippi, they were chartering planes and buses down in Texas to send people coming across the border or send people who were waiting to go through the process of being legalized in this country. They will send them to New York. They will send them to DC. They will send them to Chicago. And because these mayors and these government officials in these states, even in cities, were like, okay, we'll take them. But they should have never been sent there. Because how can you live? How can you be the governor? You can't even govern your own state, but you're going to go and try to govern. Talking about we're helping the border patrols, no, you creating a mess.
Or are they getting rid of the people that they don't want? Right? Like, we don't want you. Like, we're trying to create. When you talk about sanctuary cities, We're looking at the cities that we call the cities where these people were sent, the sanctuary cities, but the people sending them were trying to create their own sanctuary city. I want this to be a sanctuary of whiteness. I want this to be a sanctuary where we are in power and control, and we want to have control over bodies. So only the bodies that we can control in a way that we want to control them, how we want to control them, when we want to control them. That's what we want here. All this stuff y'all trying to do, and they got to go through a path and all that. We don't want them here. So we're trying to create our own sanctuary, which means we are free from them. That's what we're trying to do. So sometimes I think we have to take a look at it through a different lens.
I think so too. Hey, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was a great show this morning, great conversation. Thank you, Lo. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you, Ramen. Did he?
And there was Kwame. And then we
Kwame.
had
And thank you,
Solar Bean
for calling in. And thank you to other.
And there's plenty of people listening and watching. They just didn't comment.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Make sure you continue to listen to KBF 88.3 FM. My last thing I want to say, out of all the years that I've been an adult, I got something for the first time that I got to do tomorrow that never happened to me before. I got a summons for jury duty, and it never happened. So it's going to be interesting to actually take part in that. But enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you next Monday for Down With That, and next Tuesday for Community Voices. Peace out.
Bye.